Today I'll be talking to you about the Irish Republican movement, Ireland's quest for independence from British rule and to ultimately unify Ireland as a whole. I feel happiness, the likes of which I've never experienced. I die that the Irish nation might live. This was written by Sean McDermott in 1916 prior to his execution. I myself am Irish, so learning anything about my ancestry is super interesting to me. And by taking a look back in history, we can learn from the mistakes that were made. And living in a country where we hold our freedom so dearly, learning of another country's quest for independence should be interesting to you as well. The Irish Republican movement dates back as far as the late 18th century all the way to the early 2000s. And during this long, hard-fought battle, I'm going to be explaining to you a couple of the events that took place, starting with the Easter Rising, followed by Bloody Sunday and the Irish War for Independence. Then another Bloody Sunday. We're going to be touching on the Troubles, ending with the Good Friday Agreement, also known as the Belfast Agreement. The Easter Rising took place on Monday, April 24th, 1916. It was planned by Patrick Pearse, Tom Clark, James Connolly, along with other members of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. The British got wind of the uprising, so Ian McNeill, the leader of the Irish Volunteers, canceled the plans for the uprising nationwide, while Pearse and Clark followed through with the plan, limiting the uprising to the streets of Dublin. The fighting went on for a week. During this time, Pearse stood on the stairs of the General Post Office, a building that they had overtaken, and read a proclamation declaring Ireland's independence. After a week, the leaders realized that they were outnumbered and surrendered. The 15 leaders, along with Pearse, were executed by the British Army by firing squad. And at first, many of the Irish resented the rebels for the destruction and death of over 2,000 people. But after the executions and arrests of more than 3,000 people, 1,800 of whom were sent to England and imprisoned without trial, this ignited a resentment towards the British and ultimately helped build support for the rebels and their movement. After winning a majority of the Irish seats in the 1918 general election of Parliament in the UK, then refusing to take their seats, the Sinn Féin met in Dublin in 1919, forming their own government and declaring Ireland's independence. This leads us into Bloody Sunday and Ireland's War for Independence. The War for Independence ran from 1919 to 1921. During the war, Michael Collins, a leader of both the IRA and the Sinn Féin, led a squad on Sunday, November 21st, 1920, to gun down 19 British Army intelligence officers living in Dublin. This showed the strength of the IRA, their informants, and the destruction they were capable of causing. Within hours, though, the police force, full of new officers, fired blindly into a crowd of football spectators, killing 12 people. This was then dubbed Bloody Sunday. Almost exactly a year later, the war ended and a treaty was signed on December 6, 1921. This treaty established the Irish Free State, or more modernly known as the Republic of Ireland. The Free State included the 26 southern counties, leaving out the northern 6 counties that opted out of the treaty and remained under British rule. Moving forward, a year after the Troubles began, in December of 1969, the Provisional IRA came about to help the Irish Catholics in the North after a civil rights march in Londonderry. Keeping in mind the North, still under British rule, 2/3 of those peoples were Protestant Unionists with loyalties to the UK. The other third remained Catholic nationalists who identified as Irish. The nationalists were marching in protest against the British policy of internment, meaning anyone suspected of any type of involvement with the IRA could and would be arrested and imprisoned without trial. Something, if we remember back, was happening in 1916 as well. The Catholics in the North were treated as less than the Protestants, getting lesser than jobs, if any jobs at all. The Unionists were afraid of Catholic equality in the North, that this would be the first step in the reunification with the Catholic Republic of Ireland, something that was totally unacceptable for the Protestant Northerners. During the peaceful marches against internment and for equality, the nationalists were met with violence, with arson, and even talks of ethnic cleansing by the British, although this ethnic cleansing was never followed through. All the while, the Unionist police officers were offering little to no help for the nationalists, sometimes making it worse. On Sunday, January 30th, 1972, British paratroopers massacred Catholic protesters after another civil rights march in the streets of Londonderry, known as yet another Bloody Sunday in Irish history, killing 13, injuring 14. This horrific act led to an overwhelming outpouring of support for the Provisional IRA, the new defenders of the Northern Catholics, bringing us to the remaining 30 years of turmoil in the North, known as the Troubles. The Troubles ran from 1968 to 1998. Constant fighting in the streets between the Unionists and Nationalists, bombings in Belfast in England. Some would say that this had the makings of a civil war. Over the 30 years, over 3,000 people were killed and 30,000 were injured before any type of agreement could be made on either side. In 1998, under the Good Friday Agreement, also known as the Belfast Agreement, a power-sharing government would be created, the Northern Ireland Assembly, a cooperation between Northern Ireland and Ireland. The IRA was to disarm, and when they didn't and directly violated this agreement, it slowed down the process of the cooperation. And the UK yielded direct rule over Northern Ireland again. Finally, in 2005, the IRA announced it ordered all units to dump arms, and the other groups followed suit. And in 2007, the agreement of power sharing was reached by Gary Adams and Ian Paisley, leaders of both sides. On May 8, 2007, Ian Paisley was sworn in as First Minister, and one-time IRA commander Martin McGuinness became Deputy Minister, bringing us to where Ireland is today. The struggle was real for Irish independence, beginning with the Easter Rising, leading to the Irish War for Independence, a couple Bloody Sundays, the 30-year Troubles, ending with the Good Friday Agreement, also known as the Belfast Agreement. Although thus far, the ultimate goal of the Irish Republican movement has yet to be fully attained, they've come a long way with the Republic of Ireland gaining its independence from British rule, although Northern Ireland still remains part of the UK today.